Good Friday afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Greg Majestic back with you here in the North Georgia Majestic Weather Studios with your weekend weather update here on your February the 6th, 2026. Well, things wrapped up pretty good for our work week here on Friday with a lot of sunshine and temperatures briefly milder. But the weather story for the weekend is going to be the fact that we're going to be turning colder once again. And we're also going to have to deal with some very gusty winds, especially across the North Georgia mountains here for tonight. Could be pretty decent. I'm going to show you the latest model data on that. And then we're also going to give you an update on our warmer weather expected for next week. Now, before we get rolling in all that, if you're new here to our YouTube channel, let me introduce myself. I'm meteorologist Greg Majestic, and I'm on a mission to build a 24-hour weather channel here across North Georgia. So if you'd like to help us in that mission, please hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future weather content updates just like these. All right, let's go ahead and take a live look there in Helen, Georgia. Looking very, very, very nice this afternoon, although this area up here needs to be watchful. So some of those wind gusts tonight, we're talking in excess of 50 miles per hour. So anywhere from, let's say, Raven County coming back over toward Dawson needs to make sure that they secure their property here for tonight. I'm going to show you the model data on that here in just a second. Looking up toward Lake Chattooga, looking very nice indeed. A great day to be out in the lake. Temperatures are very comfortable out there with a brief warm-up that we're seeing across the area. But as we go in toward tonight, it'll be turning quite frigid and very windy in this area as well going in for tomorrow. Looking at our local radar, it is clear, should remain that way. No big real chances of rain in the next 7 days. Pretty limited here on my 7-day forecast. And as we take a look at our regional satellite, again, might see some clouds skirting here ahead of this clipper system across North Georgia. Shouldn't amount to too much there, though, with the clouds. And then generally going to be seeing sunny conditions here across our area here for tomorrow. So look at our regional radar, again, looking pretty good as temperatures are warming up into the 50s and still holding on to about 45 there in LJ. But again, a lot of areas should be warming out into the 50s for this afternoon. Now ahead of that warm front that's sweeping through, and then the cold front, that's coming in tonight, and that's really going to drop the temperatures off going into the overnight hours. Now, let's look at the regional model here. One thing I'm going to watch here very closely is the fact that we got those blue lines. That's kind of the separation line. Heading this way, progressively colder. Head this way is progressively warmer, and Georgia's kind of right on the edge of this. So we're kind of getting a glancing blow from this colder air. Now, we're going to have to deal with those upslope snows in or across the Smoky Mountains there. But going overnight, as that front blows on through, it's going to be quite breezy. Now, the good news is we go into Saturday and into Sunday, things will moderate. Notice those blue lines, they head on out of here as we get a westerly wind. And that's going to allow things to warm up very nicely here. So a west wind blows in here, and it looks like we're in store for a pretty nice next week. We're talking 60s, and that's going to feel very good here across the area. Now, let's talk about those winds. That's going to be a big story here for tonight. Watch what happens as we go toward about the midnight hour. So watch that little timestamp there in the upper right-hand corner. You see that winds really start to increase here. So the area we're going to be watching here between 1 o'clock and 7 o'clock is going to be this area right up in here. So this is the zone where that winds are really going to start to increase. Watch what happens here. We're talking some very gusty winds here. I mean, really gusty, like 55 mile per hour gusts. So that could cause some sporadic power outages there for Raven, everywhere to Habersham, White, Lumpkin, and Dawson. Those areas got to be very careful. The winds do subside tomorrow, but it's going to take a little bit. It'll linger, and then we should see things beginning to improve here later tomorrow afternoon as the winds kind of generally die down for everybody. But again, be watchful tonight between midnight and 7 in the morning. That's when the winds will be at their strongest there across the northeast Georgia mountains. So let's go look at our forecast map here as we go ahead and put this into motion here for the next week. Watch the little timestamp there as we go through the week ahead, as we're looking at this front coming on through here for tonight. So it's around midnight. See that front there to the north. And with all these isobars kind of packed in there, it's some pretty gusty winds coming in from the north and some pretty good jet energy just off the surface too. That's why it's going to be so windy there. So this pulls on through. Pretty cold there on your Saturday. And then we'll begin to moderate a little bit on Sunday. But the real warm up, that's going to be going into Monday. Look where the high pressure is here on Monday. With it down here toward the south like this, we're going to get a westerly wind. And that's going to warm us up very nicely going through the weekend. Now, as we go into next week, a little bit of unsettled weather here. So right now, we're going to bring the clouds back as on Tuesday, maybe a limited rain chance there on Wednesday. I have question marks on Thursday and Friday for right now as we kind of fine-tune the forecast here on when exactly the cooler air kind of moves on in here. I mean, look at that broad paintbrush that the Weather Service has got. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be raining all the way from the Carolinas all the way back toward Texas. We're just going to have to fine-tune that forecast for days 6 and 7. So stay tuned next week for those updates as we go through the work week. I do suspect we'll see cooler weather back in here going into the following weekend. So here's our forecast here for tomorrow. Gainesville 48-33, sunny and colder once again as the temperatures drop off. Today, Gainesville is going to be right around 57 on Friday for afternoon high, so about 10 degrees colder. And overnight lows tonight, 20s and 30s with that wind. So areas up there toward Blue Ridge, Blairsville, Hiawassee, those wind chills will probably be down into the single digits with those gusty winds. Breezy mountains, to say the least, with some of those wind gusts up to 55 miles per hour. Daytime highs tomorrow, going to struggle in the mountains, upper 30s, low 40s. Everybody else here in the 40s. And then the areas there towards southeast, like Athens and Elberton and Hartwell, with that northwesterly wind, you get a slight downslope. So the winds are kind of downsloping off the Appalachians. Going to warm it up just a little bit, so a little bit milder there in the low 50s. Checking out the regional forecast. Everybody here across the southeast, definitely cold, especially Asheville at 30. Charlotte at 41, but Mobile at 61, 46 in Memphis, and that should be 49 degrees. 49 degrees there in Birmingham here for tomorrow. Here goes the rest of the 7-day forecast as we'll warm up. Look, low 60s is going to feel very good, especially as cold as we've been here across the area. And then we're going to stay in the 60s, and we're going to say goodbye to those cold, frigid temperatures. We don't even have real cold air maybe by Friday. But again, like I said, day 6 and 7, put a little question mark on that as we kind of fine-tune the forecast there. But the next 5 days, Saturday through Wednesday, I think looks pretty set here as far as the forecast is concerned. So not a bad-looking weekend. We're going to have to deal with the colder temperatures briefly. Still, I would call this the last little gasp of winter weather here because we are expecting above normal temperatures for the most part for a lot of February for the next couple weeks. And then we got to deal with very windy conditions tonight. So again, secure lawn furniture, garbage cans, anywhere across the North Georgia mountains. Just know that you're going to hear that wind howling tonight, and the potential to lose power will also be there as well with some sporadic outages, not out of the question. So again, be careful out there. All right, that's y'all's weekend forecast. Y'all take it easy, be good, stay safe. And one last time, if you're new here to the YouTube channel, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. We sure appreciate it. You guys take it easy. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.